Hello, this is my 10-minute reflection video for the MIT FGCU collaborative course trip that we just took. It was 9 days, 10 kinda, if you count coming back to RSW at nearly midnight, from Sunday turning into Monday. But anyways, let's get started with the reflections. So we flew up into Hartford, Connecticut, and then after that we took three vans up into Vermont, where we watched a documentary called Do Not Resist, which is about the militarization of police in the United States, and that was really transformative. I've never actually seen the film, and I didn't know a lot about the intense militarization that our country's going through, especially since it looked at where I'm from. I'm originally from New Hampshire, so I know the Northeast very well. So the trip was, both beautiful and nostalgic, since I grew up there my whole life. But going off of the Do Not Resist documentary, I just didn't have any idea about the militarization of police, and even where I grew up. In the documentary, it showed a place close to where I grew up in New Hampshire, and it talked about them getting these ginormous, I think they're called like MRAPs or something like that, where they are giant militarized vehicles where they are meant to serve in places like Afghanistan and abroad, where actual wars are occurring, but somehow they are being thrown into communities like ours and like communities all around the country, which is terrifying. And the video showed just how it's happening, how there are programs where states and counties and cities can pretty much get these vehicles for free through these programs that just put all of these ginormous military vehicles within our communities. And that was terrifying to learn, that the police are meant to serve, and they're not meant to kind of kick down your doorstep and show up to your house with a giant military vehicle and with assault weapons. And just watching the entire video and looking at different places around the country, and looking at how congressmen and women thought about the issue, and how people within the police force thought about the issue, if it was an issue at all to them, if it wasn't. And it just covered a whole bunch, and I thought it was incredible, the entire film. And we got to view that with a lot of very active members up north, and we got to discuss it. And afterwards, that's where we went to Marlborough College, where we stayed for 2 days, and it was an amazing place to stay, because it was just this ginormous building right in the middle of nowhere, which is pretty much everywhere in Vermont and New Hampshire, like I said, where I'm from. So it was just good to watch a film like that and travel from Florida and just have that first day to be like, wow, I'm in such a new place, and got to learn so many things this trip. That really set the pace for the rest of the trip. And so we stayed in Vermont for 2 days, and then we went to Boston. We stayed a little bit outside Boston at an Airbnb, where each day we would either take the bus or the train to MIT or to various locations to talk to people about what we came up there for, the 8 civic design principles that Caesar McDowell had founded and that he teaches at MIT. And one of the stops that we made was at Emerson College. We didn't just go to MIT, we went to various other places, and at Emerson College we got to speak with somebody about how you can apply games to something like civic design, how you can apply games to really influence and affect communities in positive ways. And the way that this professor did it at Emerson College, he took a very popular character in India, and he used that to create a game where the children could learn about sanitation. So instead of just going there and trying to teach somebody the importance of sanitation through some sort of PowerPoint slideshow, he decided that it'd be more effective to use a character that was already very popular within the youth in India and bring that out through hundreds of different school systems and teach children how to fight the germ monsters and stuff like that. But just having it through the games doesn't mean that it's a joke. It's just using it as a medium for which people can learn the importance of things. And that was really interesting because I just never thought about going into community and doing something so fun. And it really goes back to the 8 civic design principles and, you know, the importance for healing, designing for healing, designing for collaboration. You know, if you create a game, you can design for all of that, and you can design for delight. You can make the experience enjoyable and that people want to do it. So it was important for me, whether we were at MIT or Emerson or downtown Boston or wherever we went, it was adding different layers to this experience where each day I was learning so much. We got to speak to Harvard graduates, and we got to speak to people who knew Gandhi. We got to speak to people who have been all around the world doing amazing things. And it was a lot to take in, but it was so easy to take in the knowledge because each day when we learned something new, we would take breaks to discuss what we talked about with intellectuals, and then at the end of the day, we would discuss as groups, and we would make video reflections and write in journals. And it was easy to grasp concepts when we looked at things like surveillance, and we looked at things like designing with games and going into communities. It was just so interesting to be able to reflect during the process, so that once we got back to FGCU, we had all of this knowledge that we could apply to our own communities and see how people at MIT, how professors and students are applying principles to communities all around the world. The actual workshop that we did at MIT, we did it pretty far within the trip because, and I think it was important because we had to learn so much. We had 5 weeks of classes before the trips, but we only met on Mondays, so that meant 5 classes. Even though that seems like we didn't have that much time to learn a lot, we were actually meeting outside of the classroom as small cohorts, getting together to discuss and design what we were going to do once we were up at MIT. So when we were finally at MIT, it wasn't so much that it was this really easy experience because we were challenged every single day. But we were all, by the time that we were rolling out in a city that many of us don't know that well and that we were a little bit uncomfortable in, we knew that all of us were going to have our A game, and all of us were confident, and all of us knew what was at stake. You know, we're at a prestigious university, and at the university that we're at, we have so many initiatives that are important and that make our university stand out, but a lot of people don't know about us. So it's important when we go to a place like MIT to show what we're made of. And the experience that I had at the University of MIT, that doesn't really sound right, but the experience that I had at MIT was so transformative because I never knew that, and this is getting a little dark. I don't know where this is. This way. Sorry, there was clouds. Let me make that a little darker. So at MIT, when we actually did the workshop, it was a lot of preparation in Boston, where we worked with the professor who created the design principles, and we worked with some of his students, his graduate students, and we really just got to immerse ourselves more than we ever had into what we were going to be teaching and what we were going to be working with others on. And I would say if we didn't go to Boston, we didn't actually get this experience of being challenged by the creator of these principles, by the people who are applying these principles around the world, by intellectuals that have done so much with their lives. It was an opportunity that completely changed my life, and it really showed just how important it is to collaborate on something so big, and it showed how important it is to work together in ways that, you know, you're going to struggle, but as long as everybody there has the commitment, you're going to succeed. And that's exactly what we did when we actually rolled out the workshop. We had a few prep days beforehand, but when we actually rolled it out, it was like all of this knowledge and all of this work coming together at one time. And I think that it just really showed when after the workshop, after we all showed our little pieces. For example, I was designed for analog and digital, so I added digital components to a lot of the analog activities that people had. I added QR codes that people would be able to use their phones to scan the QR codes and watch videos or get supplemental materials that they could take home, that they could follow our classroom in Florida once we left. So that was just one small piece, but we had so many other pieces, whether it was designing for collaboration or designing for healing, where we had people singing, and we had people dancing, and we had people talking about meaningful experiences in their life and relating it to systems that are in place in the United States and around the world, and seeing how those impactful decisions happened and how they relate to other people's impactful experiences, and how they relate to the systems that are in place that cause or impact the experiences that we all have. And at MIT, after we all ran through all of our different design principle showcases, it was so good to hear so many people reflect on us and say, we've never had anybody come in here, or people within MIT, that used this space so thoroughly and that impacted people so much. We had the professor who created these design principles who works at MIT, and he said that it was one of the most impactful experiences that he's seen, because he created these design principles, and he said that we were giving them life and that we were impacting communities at large by showcasing them and by bringing people through in just a few short hours, by showing people how these design principles really impact them and how they can use them in different aspects of their life, and how they can use them to reflect on their own experiences in this country. And for me, the entire MIT trip was really the culmination of everything that we set out to do and all of the challenges that we faced together as a class. And it's even funny calling it a class, because it's so much more than that. It was, for us, it was almost like being a family and going to this whole new place and going through all of this material that is relatively new, and it can be difficult to grasp at first, because you need to relate it to so much within the country and to your own experiences, and figuring out how other people see things and how other people have experienced things differently than you. It was everything coming together and just finally being able to show everything that we learned. And being in Boston was something that I'll remember for the rest of my life. And I'll remember being at FGCU and thinking about going to MIT and just how different it was. Having the experience to go there showed me, how caring this world is, and how much everybody goes through pain, and how everybody wants to heal, and how everybody wants to understand why they're going through the experiences that they are, and how to help others. And going to MIT was that experience where I got to see this new prestigious university, and they didn't act like we were some college in Florida. They just acted like we were citizens who cared to make change. And being there and being a part of the workshop and being a part of this family that we all found ourselves in, going through pain and struggles, it was something I'll never forget. And it was something that really changed my view of what college can be and what it means to learn with other people like me, and people who are different than me, and speaking with people all around the world who have been through so many different things than I have, and hearing why it's so important to just listen, and to listen to others, listen to your own struggles, and to relate that to the systems of this country, and why those things are happening, and how you might be able to help yourself and help others. So the classroom experience for me, extremely unorthodox, but I wouldn't have changed a thing. I went through a lot of struggles, and I went through just so much confusion and pain, because I thought being at MIT, it was just, we were never going to be able to live up to the moment. But when the head of the department and the founder of these civic design principles said that we blew him away, and that he saw how much we cared and how much life that we breathed into his concepts, it was amazing. It was amazing to be able to be a part of this. I don't know what else to call it, but I wouldn't call it a class. I would just call it family, and I would just call it one of the best experiences of my life. So there's my reflection video.